Welcome back to Comical Opinions. This is a review of Duke number 2 from Image Comics. In this issue, Duke finds himself reaching out to an old friend for a tune-up, and I mean that in multiple ways, but the Joes are hot on his trail. But before we get started, please like, share, comment, subscribe. Let us know how we're doing. Leave us a comment, how we can do better. Also, your attention gives the algorithm a little boost. Let us know we're out here and trying to figure out what's going on to make your review, the videos better. So would really appreciate it. Anyway, before we get started, let's talk about the credits. This is Duke number 2, written by Joshua Williamson, art by Tom Riley, colors by Jordi Belair, letters by Russ Wooten, or Wooton, I'm not sure, but yeah, Russ Wooten. And the main cover A, is also done by Tom Riley. First impressions, this was a fun video. Not fun video, fun comic. Lots of action, good pacing. When Duke and the main Joe character that he seeks out help from, Clutch, get together, they have a nice camaraderie. They have nice chemistry, and there's wit and charm because they go way back, and you kind of feel that personality coming through. However, this issue is very fast and not too much happens. Some things happen that are more like setup rather than actual true developments that make it memorable. But it's a fast read, and generally speaking, it's a fun read. Pardon me. But before we go into where we're going, let's talk about where we were. So if you're not following along in issue number 1, Duke is sort of out of his mind because in a recent issue that has nothing to do with G.I. Joe, Duke accidentally encountered a Decepticon, and it sort of threw him for a loop. And everyone he told in his upper management, Colonel Hawk, everyone else, nobody believed him. And so they tried to get him to be silent, tried to squash any investigation that he was doing on his own. And he said, "Forget you, I'm out of here." And unfortunately, that put him on the wrong side of the right people, or the wrong people, if you prefer, and sort of turned him into an enemy of the state unknowingly. So that's where we left off. Now, where do we go from here? He reaches out to an old buddy that goes way back, even before his army days, a character by the name of Clutch. So if you're familiar with G.I. Joe, you know that character is a true gearhead in the purest sense of the word. Clutch is trying to get him suited up with a vehicle, trying to help him with the technology that Duke got from Dr. Burkhart in the last issue, and also patch him up from the glass and the bullet wounds and everything else that was going on. Uh, Here's an interesting fact. There are several G.I. Joe characters that make their first time appearance in this particular issue. So if you are anxious to see all kinds of Joes that you grew up loving from years way back, keep reading in this issue, and you'll see several, including a villain who we haven't seen in this series yet in any of the related Energon universe comics from Image Comics. And I'll spoil a little bit. She shows up on the last page, which portends interesting things going forward. So, what do we think about this issue going as far as general readability? Is it a good comic? Did I have a lot of fun with this comic? If you're talking about pacing and just that natural chemistry between Duke and Clutch as they trying to figure out where to go, and then as they're eventually discovered by the Joes and are captured and forced to be brought in for further developments, which we won't spoil here. This is a fun issue. It was fast paced, a lot of fun. There's not a whole lot of dialogue in this issue, so it's not silent, but it really relies on the action and the pacing and the art to keep you moving along. What didn't we like about this issue? When we're reviewing comics, one of the things that me personally and everybody we work with drives us batty is grammar mistakes. And mistakes, especially when you have a comic that relies so much on the action and the art to keep things moving, and there's so little dialogue. The dialogue, when it pops up, has to be right. And there are a couple mistakes in here with the grammar and the word arrangements where it looks like they were missing a word or two. And that's the kind of stuff that drives me batty. So, I mean, come on, Image. The Grammarly is free. There's no reason for that. But overall, and again, not a lot happens. A lot of this feels like a setup issue, which isn't necessarily bad. But for issue number 2, you'd think there'd be more big wow moments, except for that last page reveal. You don't get much of that. Just Duke continuing to run, and then eventually he gets captured by the Joes, but that leads to some secondary developments, which we'll find out where that happens in the subsequent issues 3 or 4. What about the art? So how's the art? So Tom Riley's art, surprisingly, I like it. It's not super detailed. It's except for some of the background images, which you can see on the screen. But he gets the characters right. He gets the facial expressions right, and there's a sort of a kind of I'm not sure how to put it exactly, sort of like a crime noir feel to it. He's very into silhouettes. He's very into the contrast between light and dark. And there's a sort of mid-century aesthetic appeal to Tom Riley's art that I think for this works really well because Duke is essentially a man on the run, and that suits that type of story really well. So, final thoughts or final comments? What do we think about Duke number two? It's a winner, I think, generally speaking. There are one or two foibles, things that we're not too keen on and not too crazy about. But overall, I think it's another positive step in the right direction for Skybound and Image Comics. So having said that, we're going to give Duke number two a, let's see, we're going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. So I hope you enjoy this review. Before you leave, please like, share, comment, subscribe. Let us know how we're doing, and you have a great day. This is Gabe Hernandez for Comical Opinions, signing off.